What's going on, everyone? Threat Behringer here live with Brett Taylor. It's Inside the GIAA here, but presented by the Beck Center on GIAA.tv every Wednesday night. Brett T. Quavo, what up, man? How are you doing this Wednesday night?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to see you, Thrift. Got the locks flowing here tonight, so it should be a great Inside the GIAA.
Hey, I'm letting it flow, baby, and we got a big-time show in store for you today. Tennis state championships just happened this past week, earlier this week, and we're going to talk about who those state championships were. We'll also break down the rankings for baseball, each classification, and Richard will have his segment with Ian Jones, the head coach of Stratford and our soccer contributor. So another great show in store and talking about everything happening around the wonderful world in the GIAA Association. Brett, can you believe it? We're already in state championships here for Springs. Tennis is here. Track and field will be not too far away, followed by golf. And then we'll have baseball and soccer state championships. So busy next couple of weeks for Kent, and the rest of the GIAA admin office. And they had a ton of fun today at the John Smith Tennis Center at the John Smith Tennis Center and Randy Stevens Tennis Center were the two centers that were hosting this. John Smith Tennis Center, John Drew Smith, and then Randy Stevens Tennis Centers, Brett. So let's go ahead and get into some of those state champions at John Drew Smith Tennis Center. The 2026 GIAA Girls Singles State Championship for the Class 3A was Julianne Brushhaber from Rivers Academy. Congratulations on winning the singles there. In the 3A classification, Juliana Brushhaber from Rivers Academy, Brett.
Yeah, great job there. And then also a fellow AAA state champion singles on the boys' side is also from Rivers Academy in Harper Loomis. So congratulations to both of them.
Next, GIAA Boys Double State Championship for Class 1A held at Randy Stevens Tennis Center. Josh Adams and Maddox Reynolds from Grace Christian are your state champions. Congratulations in the Class 1A State Championship. GIAA Boys, Josh Adams, Maddox Reynolds from Grace Christian.
And Grace Christian doubling up here in the doubles with the girls single A champions. And that is Keegan Belcher and Morgan Baxley. So congratulations to both of them for winning a state championship. So Grace Christian bringing home 2 state titles in doubles.
Now let's go to GIAA 4A Girls Double Champions. And this was held at the John Drew Smith Tennis Center. And Brookstone School back on top once again. Cam Middleton and Caroline Peak are your champions in the girls for the 4A classification. Brookstone, Cam Middleton, and Caroline Peak, girls doubles state champion at the John Drew Smith Tennis Center.
Yeah, great job by them. And then on the boys' side for the Class 4A doubles state champions, you have from FPD, Noah Perry and Ethan Lashley. So congratulations to both of those, the Brookstone champions and then the FPD champions on the boys' side.
Let's continue on. And in the 2A classification at the Randy Stevens Tennis Center, and this is for doubles, Charlie Gentry and Andrew Cates from Edmund Burke Academy are your 2A doubles state champions. Congratulations on a great outing by Edmund Burke's Charlie Gentry and Andrew Cates.
And then congratulations for the AA girls double state champions from Southwest Georgia Academy. That's Ava Still and Addison Mock. So congratulations there, Southwest Georgia, bringing home a championship down to Damascus.
All right, we go from 2A doubles. Let's do 2A singles. Girls side, held at Randy Stevens. Heritage Hawks, rise up. Addie Rogan is your singles state champion from the Heritage School. Congratulations to Addie Rogan.
And on the boys' side, the Sherwood Christian Eagles have a state champion on the AA boys and singles, Sam Moorhead. So congratulations to him. Great job by both of the AA singles champion on the boys and girls side.
GIAA now 3A boys doubles. And Hudson Green, Riley Riggs from Rivers Academy are your state champions at the John Drew Tennis Center. Congratulations again for the 3A boys doubles state championship. Hudson Green, Riley Riggs from Rivers Academy.
And then the 3A girls, also a clean sweep here in the doubles.
Wow.
Rivers Academy with Brindley Linmood and Reagan Polar. So congratulations to both of them. Rivers Academy sweeping both the singles and the doubles.
Something really awesome, Brett, is the 2026 GIAA Wheelchair Tennis Invitational. And this was held at the John Drew Smith Tennis Center. Congratulations. Winning gold, Jordan Bates. Silver, Caleb Young. And bronze, John Grimsley. So Jordan Bates, congratulations on winning the gold. Caleb Young on the silver. And in the bronze, John Grimsley. And that's really awesome. That was held at the John Drew Smith Center.
And Thrift, I'll have to put a plug in there. Man, I've been to quite a few adaptive sports events, handball, basketball. Obviously, you see it a good bit, in the state of Georgia as far as specifically basketball. But, man, they're really fun to watch, and they're really good athletes. And I couldn't imagine having to do all of that and wheeling myself around to be able to compete like that. And just kudos to them for a good job well done. And there's your, as you said, bronze, silver, and gold medalists. So congratulations, guys, there. Then we'll move on to the single A girls state champion from Fullington Academy, Miss Evelyn Fletcher. So congratulations to her on the single A girls championship.
For single A boys in there, LaGrange Academy's Jarvholm, Alexander Jarvholm. And that is, again, Alexander Jarvholm from LaGrange Academy. Congratulations on being your singles champion for the Class 1A.
And then the Quad A boys singles state champion, Mahir Takur from Fulton Science Academy. So congratulations to him. Great job there. And I think we've got one more state champion.
Yeah, FPD's Caitlin Jackson and the 4A girls singles state champion, FPD's Caitlin Jackson. Congratulations to all the state champions, and glad, Brett, that we were able to recognize them here on Inside the GIAA. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from break, we got more here. Don't go anywhere. Presented by the Beck Center here on GIAA.tv.
GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv.
Welcome back, everyone, Inside the GIAA. Again, great job by the Tennis State Championships. Great event, as always, and congratulations to all the state champions. How about golf? Girls State Tournaments coming up April the 27th at Southern Hills Golf and Country Club in Hawkinsville. And for the Boys State Championship, that is at Brickyard Golf Club in Macon and the Harbor Club in Eatonton. So we're cheering on both of those sports. That is coming up, Brett, this Saturday. Next Monday. That will be next Monday when both those golf state championships are going to be. How about track and field? That's coming up April 30th through May 2nd, and that will be held at Strong Rock Christian School in Locust Grove, a beautiful campus to be able to host their state championships. Brett, we just did tennis, and so glad that we were able to do that. What are the other spring sports? Well, baseball is going to be held at Georgia Southern. And then, of course, soccer state championships will be held at Stratford. I know you're excited about all those, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, can't wait to see what happens. Soccer is always an interesting sport with, normally down to the wire finishes. You see some crazy things happen, some just outstanding individual performances. And then you head over to the baseball side, a little maybe slower pace, but man, the excitement builds, especially if you get into that third game where both teams have won a game in the series. That's going to be really fun and really exciting for all the fans that come out of that. Another new venue for us that we haven't been to, and that will be also a fun thing to get to experience Georgia Southern, J.I. Clement Stadium on the campus of Georgia Southern University. So I'm looking forward to both of them. Obviously, soccer will be at Stratford Academy, as it's been the last 2 years, a great venue in and of itself. And I just excited to see who comes out on top and all the exciting plays that we're going to have throughout the championships.
All right, so let's take one more break. When we come back from break, it's rankings time. We'll talk baseball rankings, and Richard will get with Ian, and we'll wrap it up here on Inside the GIAA. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
Welcome back, everyone, here to Inside the GIAA. It's time for rankings. Brett, throw them up. Let's start with the 1A classification. First up, let's talk about who's in the playoffs but not in these rankings. John Hancock's number 12, they are in, and Westwood is number 11, they are in. Crisp Academy, Grace Christian, and Highland Christian all left out. Those are the top 10. Fullington comes in at number 10. Number 9, Covenant Academy. Number 8, FPCA. Number 7, Heritage Prep. Number 6, Robert Toombs. Let's get to the top 5. Flint River comes in at number 5. And the 4 teams with first-round byes, Vidalia Heritage at number 4. David Emmanuel at number 3. Thomas Jefferson at number 2. And then I would think the prohibited favorite, I mean, it's not even close how big of a gap there is between 1 and 2. And it would be a massive upset if this defending champion doesn't win it. Citizens Christian, 19-1 on the year. By the way, Calvary does face off against Citizens next week. That should be a lot of fun watching those two teams face off. Brett, your thoughts when we're looking at this 1A classification rankings?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a huge favorite here. When you look at the rating, there's 15 points that separate Thomas Jefferson in the 2-hole from Citizens Christian. So you would think Citizens Christian is going to be the heavy favorite coming into this thing. Coach Andy Bonifay and the Jaguars over at Thomas Jefferson, they've been in a state championship series before. So you can never count out a scrappy bunch from Thomas Jefferson, but you would think that all signs point to CCA having a greater than 60% chance of defending their state crown from last year. And they were dominant on the way to that state crown last year. And we'll see if they remain as dominant in this playoff run this year.
2A classification, there is 17 teams in the 2A classification, Brett. Monsignor Donovan, Central Fellowship, Holy Spirit Prep, St. Mary's Academy, and Augusta Prep all out. Now, I will tell you, Augusta Prep and Sherwood Christian, who's a 12 seed, really close, neck and neck, seeing who gets that last playoff spot. Not in the rankings, Sherwood and Windsor Academy, 12 and 11. They're both in the playoffs as of today. And let's talk about that top 10, Brett. You got Briarwood comes in at number 10, 9-4. And remember, when you look at these rankings, they base it off of your schedule and the team you play schedules. So there's a lot of factors to go into it, and winning's one of them. But winning against good teams is another one, and playing good teams is a thing too. Number 9, Georgia Christian. Number 8, Southland. Number 7, Brentwood comes in. Number 6, Westminster Christian School. Number 5, Edmund Burt. Top 4 that got buys right now. How about Johnny Estrada's Heritage Hawks? Number 3, Trinity Christian. Number 2, Gatewood. And number 1 team in the 2A classification is Southwest Georgia right now with the lead over Gatewood. Brett, thoughts?
Yeah, I still think, and I said this last week, I think that Gatewood, if I'm looking at a team, if I'm Southwest Georgia Academy, they know the Gatewood Gators very well. Gatewood's going to be a tough out. I think Heritage, as you mentioned last week, they're kind of rounding into form, and they're always going to be dangerous. And Gatewood would have that 2-3 matchup if everything goes chalk against Trinity Christian. And I'll tell you what, playing a team from Dublin in the playoffs in any kind of softball or baseball scenario is not an easy task. And, so that's going to be a tough one to get there. But I think when it's all said and done, you're going to see the Warriors of Southwest Georgia Academy taking on Gatewood in the finals. That's my early prediction as we start to head into these playoffs. We'll see how things work themselves out. If I'm looking for a sleeper in here outside of the top 4 teams, I think Edmund Burke, who we've seen in the state championship in the last couple of years, would be a team. They always play good baseball over at Edmund Burke, have an outstanding just program altogether. They'd be a team to keep my eye out on for sure. And but right now, I would have to say that I think the top 2 teams have strong possibility of playing down at Georgia Southern for a state title.
Let's do 3A classification. There are 14 teams. Westminster Schools of Augusta, Terrell Academy, and Terrell Academy are out. Who's in? Dominion Christian at 500 at number 12, and Brookwood comes in at number 11. Top 10, St. Andrews 16-8. Number 9, Lakeview comes in at 11-10, and number 8, Tift area at 10-11. Westfield School comes in the top 7. Piedmont comes in at number 6. John Millage, number 5. Top 4 all got byes. Pinewood, Frederica, Deerfield, Windsor, and the number 1 team, Valwood, comes in 19-2 on the season. And there is a pretty decent gap between them and Deerfield, Windsor. Still a very tough classification. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure, Brett.
Yeah, top to bottom, very deep AAA classification. It's going to be tough for any of these teams to win this thing. I think obviously Valwood has a great record. Their strength of schedule, though, when you look at it, not as good as maybe some others, but still the fact that they've only lost 2 games on the season has vaulted them into that 1 spot. But I think that 5 seed is going to be the dangerous one yet again. We saw it in the 2 with Edmund Burke. I think John Millage is a team. They're just used to winning in Milledgeville, and so no matter what sport you play, I'm always gonna, when I see John Millage in the top 5 of a classification ranking, that's gonna pique my interest a little bit, and that's a team to watch out for. And something I didn't mention earlier, Thrift, that you got to think about when you're talking about these series. The first 4 get byes, and we've seen it in the MLB playoffs. You get a team that has played maybe a week, maybe they've swept a series and got hot. Will they have an advantage over teams that haven't played in a few days and have been sitting around having the bye? Will that be a factor? So it may be one of those things where John Millage and Piedmont are looking at that 5-6 and knowing that they're hosting that play-in round, if you will, and maybe they get a chance to get hot and get things rolling into the playoffs.
Brett, I want you to go back to 1A classification. I want to quickly add something that I meant to do already, which is who are some surprise teams. So we'll get that up here in just a moment. Obviously, we said Citizens Christian is the prohibitive favorite. I wouldn't sleep on Flint River in that 1A classification. That would be my surprise team and a sleeper pick. Brett, what would be yours?
I think Flint River is a good candidate, considering they've got some players on that team that have played in a state championship before. They played a couple of years ago in Macon at Luther Williams Field and lost a heartbreaker, I think, over at Tatnall. Ended up having to move over there because of some rain issues. Lost a heartbreaker. And so you've got some players there with some playoff experience and some championship game experience. So I think that's always going to be good. FPCA is another team that's been in deep runs before. I know a 6-15 record doesn't look that great, but again, if you look at strength of schedule, obviously that has put them and vaulted them into the top 10 above some other teams that maybe have some better records. So you can't really count out a team based on records. You mentioned earlier, Strong Rock taking down Brookstone in 4A. Strong Rock doesn't have a great record, but we know that they're a good ball club and that they have just faced some tough opponents. So, some of these teams are battle tested, maybe with not so good records, and you got to keep an eye out for that, Thrift.
2A classification, sleeper pick. I'm a leaning Heritage. I know you're thinking top 4, but Southwest Georgia's got a pretty commanding lead. Them and Gatewood would, I would say, be the favorites. I think Heritage and any team led by Johnny Estrada, who's played a very tough schedule this year, I would put up there as my sleeper pick. You got one, Brett.
I was thinking when we were going through this, those boys from Americus I would not want to see Southland.
That's a good point, Brett. And they played a tough schedule too.
Yeah, if I've had to play them in the first round, I would not want to see them. They played some big boys on the way. Some of the 4A teams that have been up there, they haven't gotten victories in those games, but you know that they're not going to be intimidated by what they see. So they would be one for me. I do agree that Heritage is a dangerous club at the 4 spot there. So it's cliche to say, but it's all about how hot you can get, and obviously pitching. We talked about this last week, and I mentioned, I think when you get past the top 4 teams, I think it's all about pitching, and it's going to be a roll of the dice with coaches. How do we play? If we are going to concede, or if we're going to come in with the standpoint of our ace against their ace, maybe in the best matchup, does our ace fare better against their number 3 starter? How do we rotate our pitching to try to account for that? And then how do we manage it? Can we come? We've seen this in state championship series, Thrift, where we've seen a starter start in game 1 and they've got 25 pitches left. They come in to try to close it out in a certain scenario. So all of those types of strategies are going to play very key, especially for these underdogs, that they try to figure out a path with their pitching to pull the upset.
3A classification, I got Westfield. They play in a gauntlet of a region with Brookstone, Calvary, Pacelli, and Strong Rock, and they're all 4A and they're 3A. Obviously, Valwood, Westfield are great schools. John Milledge could be a good one, but I really lead towards Westfield. What about you, Brett?
Yeah, so the Hornets, I think they're very up and down, and they've taken Brookstone to the brink, but then they've turned around and gotten, blown out by some teams. But they hit the ball very well. I think the pitching is going to be difficult for them past their game 1 starter. I think the boys up in Monticello are going to be dangerous. Piedmont has traditionally been a great power in what was AA for them, and now that they've moved up to AAA, is still trying to find their footing over the last couple of years in a lot of sports. But I would say the boys from Monticello, if they can get on a run, we've seen them in the late 20 teens, if you will, in state championships year after year after year. So there's something in the water up there when it comes playoff time in spring for baseball. So keep an eye out for the Cougars up in Monticello.
All right, let's move on. Let's do 4A classification. There are 16 teams: Riverside Military, Mountain DeSales, Kings Academy, and Bullock Academy, all out of the playoffs right now. Right, as of now, St. Anne Pacelli comes in at number 12 and George Walton, number 11. They would both be in the playoffs. Number 10, Tallulah Falls. Number 9, Strong Rock. What an incredible win they had today. It used to be yesterday over the Brookstone Cougars, the number 3 team and 2-time defending champion. Strong Rock goes to 9-15. They have looked really good, and they played the toughest, second toughest strength of schedule at anybody in the 4A classification. Calvary got a big win over Pacelli. They rolled off several in a row. They're 10-14. They took down Brookstone last week. Number 7, Loganville. How about Tatnall Square coming in number 6? The toughest strength of schedule out of anybody in 4A is Tatnall Square. Number 5, Athens Christian. Top 4, they got buys. Bethlehem Christian. Number 3, the Brookstone Cougars, who, again, lost today. They had won 14 straight, Brett, and I hadn't lost a game in a month and a half, and they've lost now 2 of their last 3 games, losing to Calvary on Thursday, winning then Friday, and then losing yet today to Strong Rock at home. They got 2 more games against Strong Rock this week. That's going to be a lot of fun, Brett. Number 2, Stratford. And then number one team in the entire GIAA, number one team in the state of Georgia, and top 90 in the country, FPD. And Coach Greg Moore, Keon Johnson, the stud. And they look every bit the favorite. They are so far ahead of everyone else in the GIAA. It's going to be a tough one. But what's your thoughts, Brett?
Yeah, I think obviously Stratford can compete with them. They've taken them down the wire, led at home against FPD in a game that some of the guys that I have covered it. And I tell you what, I think it's going to all come down to pitching in this classification, especially against FPD. I think they're going to end up being there. I can't see a scenario where somebody beats them 2 out of 3. I think you could get a game off of them heading into the state championship. Now, when you get there, that state championship series, and the fact that if it's maybe the light blue of the Brookstone Cougars in the other dugout that may play against FPD, it could play for them if they're looking for motivation. It could play against them if they're looking at, oh no, here we go again, kind of a scenario, as they've fallen to them 2 years in a row in the state championship series. So, I would say if I had to put stake something on who's going to be there, I just have this funny feeling that it's going to be, a trilogy here between FPD and Brookstone. And this time, instead of being over in Columbus, it'll be down in Statesboro. And I think FPD has everything they need to win the state championship this year. It's just going to be about, can they finally just put it all together one weekend to get over that hump. I do think that my sleeper pick is kind of one that you emphasized on, and maybe I have a 1A and a 1B on sleeper pick, but my first one's going to be Tatnall Square. They're dangerous. Wyatt Steele is for real. He set the single game strikeout in GHSA, GIAA, any association in the state of Georgia this year, with 18 in a game earlier this season. And so I think he's the real deal. The problem, I think, with Tatnall, do they have any additional pitching, and can they score enough runs when Wyatt Steele's not on the mound? And then my 1B team would be the Strong Rock Christian Patriots that you mentioned earlier. They're just scrappy, man. They're going to be hard out no matter who they play. They're going to put the ball in play. They're going to make plays on defense, and they're just going to be tough to finish off. And so you're going to have to fight them to the end. And I would say those are my 2 sleeper picks. And it is just a gauntlet when you look down at this list.
Unbelievable, man. And my sleeper picks would be Calvary Christian, who are starting to play their best ball, and they've played the 3rd toughest strength of schedule. And I would put Tatnall up there too, and Strong Rock. I think all 3 of those teams, you get them on the right series, they could take down anybody. And other than FPD, anybody can be beaten. Those are your rankings. Baseball, guess what? Next week's the last week of the regular season, and we are start playoffs in May. What we're going to do is take a break. When we come back from break, Richard Holdridge is with Ian Jones. It's a soccer segment breaking down all the classifications, girls and boys, and seeing what's coming up next, because their playoffs start in the next couple of weeks as well. Be right back after this here on GIAA.tv.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
And welcome back to Inside the GIAA, another fantastic week. And again, we have got our soccer correspondent for the GIAA. He is the head boys coach of Stratford Academy. It's Coach Ian Jones. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, Richard. You're coming off a tough loss last night, but hey, that's part of why you play season.
Yeah, no question about it. And I know that the regular season is getting ready to come to a close. We got a couple of more weeks, and then we've got playoffs. I cannot believe the playoffs are going to be here in the month of May. That first round is going to be the 8th and 9th of May. But I know that you at Stratford Academy, you guys are getting ready for that state championship for all the classifications. We'll talk about that. We do have some local teams that are really making some big splashes, including a small team down in Macon in the 2A girls. We're going to go ahead and we're going to waste no time. We're going to go over these rankings, Coach. We're going to start with those 2A girls. And as that is the boys. All right, starting with the 2A girls. All right, starting with the 2A girls, Coach. The back-to-back champions trying to go for a three-peat. Central Fellowship, just outside of Macon. They are number one. They have been dominant all year. I know they would love nothing more than to come back to Stratford Academy and try to go for a three-peat. What's your thoughts on 2A girls? Anybody that I'm starting to see number one and number two that were in the state championship last year. Well, rightfully so. They're sitting there at 1 and 2 once again.
Yeah, I mean, right now, obviously, it looks like Central Fellowship and Westminster Christian are on course to hit going head-to-head in the finals. But, the playoffs, we talked about this last year, in regards to, preparation for the month of May with all these graduations, end-of-year ceremonies. Some schools have still got prom going on. So, I think Central Fellowship has, they've challenged themselves. They've played a tougher schedule this year in preparation for the, going for that three-peat. And I think Teddy Tanner and his assistants have done really well over there. But Westminster Christian, I'm sure, will be out for revenge. And certainly Trinity Christian and Georgia Christian, they've had tremendous seasons as well. So certainly they're not going to go down without a fight either.
Absolutely. And you can't forget about that small St. George's out of Milner, which is not too far from where you guys are. That's like they're out in the middle of where Rock Springs Christian Academy is over there in Lamar County. But I tell you, that's another team to watch out for. And we know about the Robert Toombs of the world, the Heritages. There's some pretty talented teams in 2A. But remember, the first 4 teams will get a bye. So they'll be playing the 15th and 16th, I believe, in the first round of the playoffs. But, yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't just assume that the top 4 seeds will just automatically advance. I mean, certainly we've played St. George's in the middle school level the last couple of years, and each year they've gotten more and more competitive. So certainly I would anticipate those 5th and 6th seeds and maybe even a 7th seed stepping up and trying to go for a challenge. So and like I said, this stage of the season, it's really important for teams to stay focused, not look too far ahead, and keep their eyes on the prize and see what happens.
All right, Coach, let's go to the boys. Number 1 is Heritage. They've had a dominant season last year. The runners-up from last year, but the big surprise is the defending champions, really the 2-time defending champions, Holy Spirit Prep, sitting there at number 4. Looking at their record, I'm wondering if they're number 4 because of their record or because they have lost a lot from those couple of championship teams, or could it be a factor if they played a tough schedule?
From what I've seen and when I've spoken with Coach Walker, Sam Walker, Holy Spirit, and he does a great job with them. And they struggled early on just with fine tune. They've lost a lot to graduation the last few seasons, but certainly they've played a tough schedule, and which I think you got to respect some of these schools that who choose to schedule a tougher schedule, and it does hurt them in the max preps rankings because you really don't get any points for losing a game, whether it's an easy game or a tough game, and you get more points for winning a game, and so that strength of schedule, really does play a factor, and certainly I think Holy Spirit will certainly be in the mix. But again, I think when you look at Central Fellowship and Trinity Christian out of Dublin, you can't overlook those guys either. I mean, Trinity Christian graduated a few that big play was their goalkeeper last year. I still feel like they've got some talented players where I think they can make might be able to cause an upset. And then you got to give Heritage, man. I was thoroughly impressed when we played them early in the year and when they beat us. But I've been very impressed with seeing their results, and that's a very strong team. Augusta Prep is much improved from last season, so I think they will certainly be pushing to get to the finals and again Sherwood Christian. But St. George's, again, we've played that. Stratford has played them in middle school the last few years, and they've had some talented players, and so certainly. I certainly feel like they'll make a push in it. And then first preparatory out of Hinesville, Tom Sukaratana. I mean, I've known him for a long time, and man, if anyone can get boys motivated, he can, and he's a great coach. And so it'll be interesting. I think this might be one of the most competitive brackets across the classifications, possibly.
Yeah, no question about it. And just to be clear, Holy Spirit Prep 2 years ago, because I remember I was on the call, they were in 3A. They were the runners-up to Westminster Schools of Augusta. So I just wanted to clear that up. But Holy Spirit Prep trying to go back-to-back. Going to be a little bit tougher, especially like if they have to go on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to 3A girls. We've got the defending champions, Frederica Academy out of St. Simon's Island, sitting there at 10-2. And you look at St. Andrews, the runners-up from last year, they're at 8. Any surprises in this? I mean, a lot of these 3A schools, they are in the same classification with 4A, so the record is not going to reflect the type of teams that they could especially compete at the 3A level. But is there any team here in the 3A girls that stands out to you, Coach?
Well, we have a couple of those teams that play in different districts with 4A teams, such as John Millage, who I think, their records really don't truly reflect how good of a team they are because they are playing in a tougher region. But I think Deerfield, Allie Johnson's done a great job with Deerfield this year. Again, an improved team from last year. And then St. Andrews is obviously had a little bit of a down year compared to last season, and I'm sure that's down to graduation. But Frederick, I think, I watched them. Well, we haven't played them this year, but certainly they are a team that pretty much reloads on the girl side, and so certainly I think. They're probably the favorites, but certainly, again, month of May, you've got to stay focused. You've got to stay, composed and not look too far ahead, and really just make sure you're ready to play, on game days.
All right, Coach. 3A boys. There's only 7 teams in the rankings for 3A, but there is one team that is starting to create a dynasty. I was actually going back in the archives. Westminster Schools of Augusta has won the last 3. They won in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Trying to go for a 4-peat. I didn't go back to 2022, but they have been the most dominating 3A boys soccer program. And right behind them is the runner-up, Brookwood. You talk about the dominance of Westminster Schools of Augusta. How many straight championships have they won? I've counted 3. Are they on a more run than that, Coach?
They've won the last, from my recollection, they've won the last 2 state championships, and then the 3 years ago, I think Holy Spirit beat them in the finals, and them and the Holy Spirit were going back and forth for a couple of seasons. And we played against Westminster last night, and I'll say the same thing that I said last year when we went to Augusta and played them. They are by far one of the best teams that I've seen in across all classifications. Sean Brower has done such a fabulous job. I mean, the way that they play the game, the trickery on their corners, free kicks, kickoffs. And it's those small details that they take care of. I mean, we were up 1-0 with about 8 or 9 minutes to go. They got a penalty kick, and that kind of put us on the back seat a little bit, and then they scored two. Like the second goal, I don't think as a keeper, no keeper could touch what that was. I mean, that ball was a direct line up in 90, and then the third one, a great finish, hit both posts and goes in with a lot of pace, and so I think that they are the team to beat. In 3A, and for argument's sake, I think they might be the best team. They'd be giving a lot of trouble to teams in 4A, and so certainly, I would, Sean and I kind of talked about it yesterday. He'd love to play 4A because he knows that's where a lot more competition is. But certainly, in all due respect to the teams in 3A, St. Andrews pushed them to the limit, and I think they only won 1-0, and so certainly I think Brookwood and St. Andrews are two teams that I think can challenge them, but if Westminster's on, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to beat them. But again, I think in their own words, as long as they show up to play and take care of business, they should be fine. But hey, you know what? If they have a slip up, they could be in trouble.
All right, Coach. Let's move along to 4A girls and Stratford Academy still rolling. I got them as 14-0 so far on the season. Did they play against Westminster girls last night?
No, they didn't. They actually had played John Mills last night and won that 10-0. John Mills boys don't have a team, so that's why we scheduled a game with Westminster. But so far Stratford is they've been dominating their region. FPD gave them a good challenge last week, and Stratford won in penalty kicks. Which I know Coach Kate knew that was going to be a much tougher game. Coach Trias did a great job, changing things up, some of their tactical play that made it difficult for Stratford. But I think it was one of those hot, muggy days where, if we were still out there, they still might be playing. You got Kings Academy who's moved into third, and again, I think they've had a very, very impressive season. Pacelli, I'm going to say this, there's another team that has played a very, very difficult schedule, has got more losses than you would have thought, and I think that their record really is not a true reflection of how good they are. And I certainly feel like when Max puts those power rankings, the strength of schedule is certainly obviously is taken into account. But when you lose to one of these to a strong team, I don't think there's really any benefit out of that. So, but again, I think that's one reason why you play a tough schedule. And George Walton, they're having a great season. Strong Rock as well. Brookstone, Mountain Sales, I think certainly could cause an upset if a team falls asleep on them. And then Toledo Falls and Bullock Academy close out. And again, you got two schools at the bottom that again you just can't overlook them. You got to make sure you're ready to play. I know Leslie with Bullock will have their girls ready, and and you've got a coach there that is getting those girls to love the game and trying to play the game the right way. So I think that it's going to be a very, very competitive bracket, I think, and it'll be interesting to see which two teams end up in the finals.
Yeah, no question about it, Coach. And we got some massive games coming up. This week, we got Pacelli taking on Strong Rock. Next week, Brookstone, who just lost to Strong Rock yesterday, they'll be rematched with Strong Rock. And then, Stratford taking on Mount DeSales. It's some great matchups, but we'll go ahead and move on to the boys. We'll finally wrap this thing up with the boys. And we talked about that matchup. It's coming. Mount DeSales, Stratford. I cannot wait for that. Coach, I know you're excited about hosting Mount DeSales. And then we got Calvary Pacelli next week, the rematch after Pacelli beat Calvary at Pacelli on penalty kicks. We're starting to get some of the top teams in 4A boys soccer facing off against each other. What's your takeaway on how this could shake up the rankings as we get ready for the playoffs?
Well, I think obviously tomorrow with Stratford Mount DeSales, obviously that's a huge rivalry game for the two of us. It's essentially the region championship. I think Robert Ching has done a fabulous job with them. My call for he should be coach of the year for our region. He's done a tremendous job, kept them consistent. Their record is only 8-0, but again, I think that some of that's by design. Where they've not played as many games. But again, with John Mills and Piedmont dropping their boys programs, that didn't help them either. Calvary and Pacelli, I mean, that's going to be a battle, man. That's the kind of game that if I have time to watch that next week, I'm going to try. But we take on Cristo Rey on Tuesday with a 5:30 kickoff. So hopefully I'll be done in time so I can catch that Calvary Pacelli game. And Brookstone, I mean, they've come a long way, and this is one of those seasons that they've been building on for the last couple of years. They haven't been very as strong as they've had in seasons past. And again, I think you're looking at the top 5 seeds, maybe even the top 6 seeds that are very, any one of those teams could compete. And we'll find out what Cristo Rey's got. Their strength of schedule has not been as strong, but again, they're in the smack middle of Atlanta, so it's difficult for them to travel to some of the schools in Columbus and Macon or whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how they are, and obviously, I'll find out next Tuesday. And then Bullock, they've had some tough losses against some good teams, but I still think they've got some talent on that team. They got a Brazilian kid who plays center back who, he can cause a lot of trouble for teams, defensively. And then Fulton Science, I know they've kind of stretched some schools in some score lines. And George Walton, again, much improved. So, and you on the outside looking in, I think Tatnall and FPD could certainly make a run potentially in those top. And I think Tatnall's number 12 right now in the state in the power rankings. So certainly they could maybe squeeze in, but I think this is going to be a great bracket, some great entertaining soccer. I would not be surprised if you saw, like a 3rd, 4th, or 5th seed in the state semis and state finals. But I do anticipate Mount DeSales and Calvary and Pacelli and obviously bias myself, making sure that we're ready to rock and roll.
Well, Coach, I'm really looking forward to having you back on next week, as it will be the final week of the regular season, and then we could start talking about brackets, as the first round of the playoffs is going to be May the 8th and 9th, and then we've got the second round game, 16th and 17th of May, the semifinals, the 22nd and 23rd of May, that during Memorial Day weekend, and of course, Stratford Academy hosting the soccer championship for all classifications in the GIAA on May the 26th and 27th. So, Coach, looking forward to having you back on Inside the GIAA. Thank you once again for being our soccer correspondent and just talk a little soccer with us.
Glad to do it, man. Glad to do it.
All right, that is our soccer correspondent from Stratford Academy. He coaches the boys there. It's Coach Ian Jones. We're going to go and take a break. We got more Inside the GIAA. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
Founded in 1985, the Georgia Independent School Association proudly represents nearly 170 accredited private, independent, and parochial schools across the state. From Tallulah Falls to St. Simon's Island, from Columbus to Augusta, our schools serve over 76,000 students every year. Whether parents are interested in smaller class sizes, more individual attention, a religious-based curriculum, or a safe and structured environment, the GISA provides a strong education, which is the foundation for success. To learn more about the GISA and how they can serve your school, visit us online at www.gisaschools.org.
Welcome back, everyone, inside the GIAA. Thanks, Richard Holdridge and Ian Jones on that soccer segment. All right, wrapping it up here. Brett Taylor, Thrift Behringer, and we talked about the baseball. We talked about some upcoming state championships. It's a great time to be alive. The only thing missing is the Mets losing. Oh, they have. They're on a 12-game losing streak right now. So everything's going good in the wonderful world of sports. Sorry, I think we're all Braves fans here. I hope so. In the GIAA, Georgia Independent Athletic Association, because we all adopt the Braves for sure on that, Brett. But fantastic show. What are you looking forward to here these next couple of weeks as playoffs are about to start for soccer and baseball?
Yeah, just to see how the stage gets set and if we see any upsets. I mean, to me, it's going to be, exciting to see. Are any of those sleeper picks that we've talked about in the baseball going to come through and potentially make a run here, or is it going to go chalk and we're going to see the teams that that everybody expects based on the ratings and their season so far? Are they going to be the ones that are in the state championship? That's for baseball. For soccer, I think the gap at the top for soccer, just based on the little bit that I've been able to plug in there, I think the gap is pretty wide. So I think upsets may be few and far between, and then it's going to come down to those Goliaths facing off against one another. In all classes, really. And we've seen that the last few years where games have gone into shootouts. That's really what I'm hoping for when we're in Macon, that we see a lot of games go to overtime, a lot of games go to shootout scenarios. Those are the most exciting. We've had a lot in the last few years in soccer. And so to me, those make for the best broadcast events. And it really all the way around, whether you're in person, whether you're watching it on GIAA.tv, to me, those that go down to the wire and you see an exciting play or a PK setup, those end up being the most exciting. So I can't wait to see it. Hopefully we get some close ball games. Hopefully everybody's having to take a lot of Tums and antacids, and as they say, the Maalox Smashers go down to the wire. So looking forward to it.
You can watch everything on GIAA.tv, state championship for soccer and baseball. And don't forget the vault to relive all the past glory. $5.99 a month, and that's $50.99 annually. It is the best subscription you will ever make. Thank you so much for watching. We're presented by the Beck Center, and we'll see you next week on Inside the GIAA on GIAA.tv.